Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Spotify has 180 million monthly users and access to 35 million songs and podcasts. Now, all those offerings are going to have to move over and make room for GabNet programming. Yes, at long last, Alex Bennett's Ramble, Damian Chaplin's Exchange, Jack Bishop's The Intersection, and even the franchise MC's Arena and Michael Snyder's weekly movie reviews will be fighting for space on this massive platform. Each day, the programs are updated, so you can hear them on the Spotify app, available for all smartphones and game consoles. Or you can just go to Spotify on the web at spotify.com. So, give us a shot on Spotify. There's a 35 million to 5 chance we'll get people to listen to talk like they've never heard it before.
This is an Internet Network news break. IP Pingsley reporting. Our top story, the Great American Broadcast Network, otherwise known as GabNet, is now a TuneIn partner. TuneIn, the world's largest audio network, has joined forces with GabNet, the world's most innovative talk network. GabNet's partnership with TuneIn means that listeners now have 3 main ways to listen to GabNet programming: Gabnet.net, TuneIn.com, and the convenient TuneIn app for smartphones. To participate in the network's innovative citizen panels on GabNet programs, use Skype and type the handle GabNet Live, or call on your phone 347-352-0079. For more information on this network, its programs, and its hosts, log on to Gabnet.net. That's Gabnet.net. This has been an Internet Network news break.
Hi, everybody. This is Alex Bennett, and I've had a long and interesting trip. It's called life. And for years, people have demanded that I write a book about it, and while I've been a writer, my main talent has always been that of a broadcaster. Over a year ago, I decided not to write the book, but using my best skill, I decided to tell it. It's called Life in the Passing Lane, and I described it as an audio biography. It's presented in 30-minute chapters, so it's easy to binge listen. And you can access it on the GabNet page by clicking on Life in the Passing Lane and going to a page with every single episode, plus some extras. If you want to access it on your mobile device, that's easy too. It's on iTunes. It's Life in the Passing Lane, an audio biography by me. I'm Alex Bennett.
Talk like you've never heard it before is now talk like you've never seen it before. Alex Bennett's Ramble is now in video. Log on to Alex's Facebook page at facebook.com/abennett every Tuesday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern and experience the Citizen Panel like never before. We put a face to people like Phil, Patrick, Renee, Kevin, Tony, Jeff, Bree, Brian, and all of our regulars. And Alex is there too, in his PJs. Just be glad he isn't naked. You can be one of those people who gets seen and not just heard by calling into Skype. For more information on how to Skype us, just go to Gabnet.net. You can dress any way you want, provided it's decent. GabNet is now not just talk and not just a pretty face. So why don't you add yours? Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hi everybody, it's Alex Bennett. It is the Ramble as we ramble along this evening here on the East Coast of the United States all the way until midnight Eastern Daylight Time, and we've got a guest with us right now, so let's check in. Ladies and gentlemen, we go out to San Francisco and we talk to the lovely and attractive Larry Bubbles Brown. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Alex. I did want to say we were talking the last show about the Cal Neva Lodge, which was, I think you said Sinatra owned it for a week and a half. But,
well, what happened was Sinatra bought Cal Neva Lodge, which was this wonderful hotel that sat on the shores of the Lake Tahoe on the North Shore, and he bought it, and of course the Rat Pack would play up there, and my father would play in the orchestra, and it was quite a place, and he bought it. But there was a black book they had in Nevada, and the black book was a list of undesirables, that being people associated with organized crime who were not allowed to be in the hotels or stay in any of the hotels with the casinos. And Frank had a good friend by the name of Sam Giancana, who was the mob boss from Chicago. And the reason Frank was always nice to these mob guys wasn't that he wanted to be mobbed up, but when he was having bad times there in the late 40s and had a hard time getting hired, they hired him. Mm-hmm. They were good to him, and so he was always good to them back, and I understand that. So anyway, Sam Giancana came to stay at Cal Neva Lodge, and when the State Gaming Commission got wind of it, they stripped Sinatra of his ownership of Cal Neva. And so that's why I say he had it for a week and a half.
And so I think Marilyn came up there to visit him a couple of times, from what I read.
Oh yeah. And it was quite the place. What happened was in Lake Tahoe. People don't know about Lake Tahoe, but just to let you know a little bit about Lake Tahoe, that's where I was married to my current wife.
Did not know that. Yeah,
we got married on the shore of Lake Tahoe, and I kind of like that because reminded me of my growing up. I would spend my summers there in a little cabin. They had cabins on the Cal Neva property, and that's where they put up the musicians and so on. And so I spent my summers in Lake Tahoe for many, many years. And the North Shore was it. When Frank Sinatra bought into the North Shore, it became quite the place, and it became the in place to be. So it was the in place to be, and it flourished amazingly. And then you have the South Shore, which everybody considered crappy because it didn't have the beauty that the North Shore had. It was kind of flat.
A bunch of cheesy motels.
Yeah, a bunch of cheesy motels. And we always talked about the South Shore like, oh, and then there's the South Shore. Well, all of a sudden, people decided to start developing the South Shore, and Harrah's went in there, and Caesars went in there, and everything. And the South Shore became the destination. Right. And the North Shore dried up. It was really sad. It was almost like you could see tumbleweed floating through it. And all that was happening in the North Shore was the development of a lot of very wealthy homes by very wealthy people. But outside of that, as a gambling destination, it just wasn't. And Cal Neva by that time was getting to be kind of seedy and old, and the North Shore just never flourished after that. And I don't think it flourishes to this day. It's always considered kind of the cheap place to go.
Yeah, it's just out of the way.
Yeah, and But I always felt bad about that because I was always taught, hey, the South Shore sucks. When I was a kid, hey, the South Shore sucks. Dad, let's go down to the South Shore. Nah, you don't want to go down there. You don't want to go down there. Because the North Shore is beautiful. I mean, you've got just right, framing in the back of these hotels and so on, is like forest, It's beautiful, just gorgeous. So anyway, that's what happened to the North Shore. But the North Shore was incredible at one point, and it was the mecca of the place to go. Sinatra was there, and he and the Rat Pack played there, and it was the destination in the north of Nevada to go see the Rat Pack and a lot of other great performers who had performed there. So,
Lake Tahoe it really is beautiful, and I think you always think about in Godfather 2 where the Corleone has a big spread there.
Yeah, well, that's over. I know. I can show you the place if we ever were to drive up there. I can show you that house. That's the house
that was the Kaiser estate, I think.
I think something like that, and it's still there. I mean, they've kind of hidden it a little more because I think it became too much of a tourist destination, and people kept bugging them,
But I guess that's huge from what I've read.
Yeah, it's a huge piece of land with a huge, I can't say hotel, home there. That's where, in the Godfather 2, that's where the wedding is, right?
That's where the wedding is, and that's where
no.
Fredo
It isn't.
Gets shot in the boat.
It isn't the wedding. It's the son's confirmation or something. It's some religion.
No, that's it. Yeah.
And then where I used to live. I lived in the down by Houston Street here in what's called the East Village. And about 5 blocks, if I walked north, there was a bar there. And that bar has been used for more things in movies than I can name. Every now and then that bar is showing up in movies. And I just watched something, Russian Doll, on Netflix. And the bar is prominent in that show. But you know what else it was prominent in? That's where they choked what's-his-name in The Godfather.
Oh, yeah, in Godfather 1.
Yeah, in Godfather 1, they choked him in that bar.
Wow.
So I have Godfather written all over me. I know where the house is in Tahoe. I know where the bar is in the village. But that bar, and then that bar got used in Luke Cage, another Netflix series, in which that's the bar he works in. So that bar keeps getting used over and over and over again. So does this apartment building I live in. It's in New Jack City. It's in Luke Cage. It's in Jungle Fever. And I could go on and on. This building's been used a lot, and in fact, we were on the show called Pan Am, and it was a Russian building, a building in Russia. That's how they used it, and so it gets used a lot for movies. So
they make good money when they lease those things out.
When you remember movies, my earliest remembrance of watching a movie being made was, I'm trying to remember, what's the name of the film? The one where Humphrey Bogart gets a facelift.
I just saw that. It's a great movie.
What's it called?
Is it Dark Passage?
Dark Passage. That's right. Well, I saw it being filmed.
It looks like it's over on Russian Hill.
Is that Russian Hill? No, it's Telegraph Hill. It's the other side of Telegraph Hill. It's a street that's right behind. You know how you go down those. There's an area of San Francisco, folks, where if you're going to move furniture in, they got to carry it in. You know those steps that go all the way down from Telegraph Hill down to the down to the main street on the bottom. We got all those houses in there, and I can't remember what the name of the area is. And right above it, right above that, is this street, and I'm trying to remember the name of the street, and there's this building, this Art Deco building, beautiful building, that this movie...
I don't know that one.
What? Shut up, Echo. I didn't even say anything. She says, I didn't know that one. Anyway, that building is still there. I've shown it to Marjorie when we were traveling out there. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful Art Deco building. And what's funny is in the window of the apartment that Lauren Bacall lives in that picture, somebody has put a stand-up of Humphrey Bogart.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I saw that movie being made. I remember, I don't know if it was Bogart was there, because a lot of times in those days when they did outdoor scenes, they used stand-ins. They went up to San Francisco. They did the footage, you know. So I don't know if it was Bogart or not, but I saw them making it. And that was my earliest memory of watching a movie being made, was Dark Passage with Humphrey Bogart. That if anybody ever sees that movie, that building is just it's gorgeous. You've seen it, haven't you?
Yeah, it's like it was one of the first high rises, I think, here.
Yeah, and it was in fact Art Deco to the extreme.
Yeah.
To the extreme.
So,
and I would imagine it's been landmarked by now. You know,
it's got to be. It's a beautiful building. It's just it's a great movie. I love the movie. It was just on here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. He's in prison,
who falls out of the window? Agnes Moorehead.
Agnes Moorehead, right? Agnes Moorehead always got it in those films.
Nobody likes her.
Nobody liked Agnes Moorehead. Great actress, by the way. Just a great character actress. But
but you saw that being made as a kid. Was it like, because watching movies being made is usually kind of boring? But
well, no, but I went over there and I saw them, and all the lights and stuff were set up, and there were some people on there's a stairway that goes up to the upper. There are two roads. There's a bottom road and an upper road. There's a stairway that goes up to the upper road, and I saw some people standing there acting. And cameras shooting them. And I went, hey, Dad, Mom, I saw a movie being made, But I didn't realize, I knew, and then I found out it was Dark Passage was what they were making, and then I went to see the movie because I wanted to see what I saw. And then all my life, Dark Passage has always stood out to me, as a film that was part of my life. All right?
Well, it's not a bad movie. Not a bad movie.
Well, there are things you remember. We get back to Cal Neva for a while, the hotel at Lake Tahoe. One of my memories is still to this day, it's vivid, because I loved my father. My father was wonderful. My mother was kind of a dope, but my father was wise and smart, and, I loved him. I don't think I hated him a day in my life, except when I was 17 and I tried to slug him. But that's part of being 17, is trying to slug your father. But what I remembered was vividly is sitting at the bar at Cal Neva. And Frank and Dean and Sammy and the whole rest of the Rat Pack in a side room that you could see. It was open, but it was a side room. And they were all laughing and whatever. And my father and I were sitting at the bar. And I always remember, I guess in that moment, I looked over and Sammy Davis Jr. was there. And he just didn't look like he felt part of the group. That kind of feeling you get from somebody when they feel they're in the wrong place. That was the feeling I always had about Sammy Davis Jr., that he didn't quite feel that he was in place. Yeah.
Well, the country was still so segregated then. It was just, probably didn't.
And it was at that bar. I remember it was a round bar, and my father and I were sitting at it, and I always tell the story. I've told it before. You folks can hear it again about my father saying, "Listen, kid, you're 21 now. You can sit at this bar. Why don't you do your old man a favor and have a drink with him?" And I said, "Well, Dad, I don't really drink anymore. I used to drink a lot when I was under. I often like to say I drank more liquor in before I was 21 than I ever have since.
Mm-hmm.
Because you weren't supposed to.
Right.
But I said, I don't know much about drinking, Dad. And he said, so I said, but I'll be happy to do it. And he says, yeah, then I can say your old man and you had a drink together. I said, he said, what will you have? I said, what are you having? He says, scotch on the rocks. I said, okay, I'll have the same thing. And I know, folks, some of you have heard this story already. And so he says to me, or two scotch on the rocks, and they bring the drinks. And my father takes a sip out of his, and he says, well, go ahead. And I take a sip out of mine, and I go, oh, my God. How can you stand this stuff?
It's awful.
And he looked at me and he said, and you thought I was having fun all these years. And I remember that. That happened that exact moment. It was Frank Sinatra in the other room, my father and I at the bar. Somehow, that moment in my life, I think when I drop dead, probably my last thought will be that moment at that bar. I don't know why. Maybe it's the happiest moment of my life. I don't know.
It's a great visual.
It's an absolutely great visual, and it was a great moment in my life.
Yeah.
Do you have any moments like that you remember that stand out that you kind of like go, yeah, I'll remember that for the rest of my life?
Let's see, making a perfect landing when I was flying the glider. That actually stands out.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was the glider?
It was a little training glider, and I'd just been passed a solo, so I was flying down in Fremont, and it was a really.
Wait a minute, you can fly a glider?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that about you.
Oh, I've told you this, yeah.
No, you haven't.
That was to get over my fear of flying, which made it worse.
Wait a minute, because I always knew you had a fear of flying because I say, come on out to New York, and you go, I don't want to get on an airplane.
I almost blew off my last Letterman show because I hated flying so much, and a couple of comics threatened to beat me up.
Yeah, but so you had the problem of but yet you learned how to fly a glider.
I learned how to fly. Yes, I had this. I always had this fear, but fascination of flying. So I saw they had this little glider poured down in Fremont. So I thought maybe I'll try that, and I did. And I flew for a couple right before stand-up. That's what got me out of it. And I flew, and just one day I had
wait a minute.
It was like getting late, and I had this. I just made an absolutely perfect landing. I barely had to touch the controls when I came down on final. It was just so perfect. And I just remember the light and landing. I just felt so good, and that sticks out in my mind like the story of you and your father at Lake Tahoe.
You amaze me, Bubbles. That
really?
Absolutely fucking amazes me.
Really?
Yes, because to me, I would say that if let's say you wanted to take me up in a glider, can two people be in a glider at the same time?
You can, yes.
Okay, you want to take me up in a glider. It would probably scare the shit out of me. But getting on an airplane's nothing for me. How you could... I look at gliders as being far more fragile and far more dangerous than, flying in an airline. All right?
Oh, I think they just seem... They're really safe. And I think you would actually like them. You probably, well, of course, all the glider ports are gone now because they've built up buildings around them. But if you ever get a chance to take a glider flight, I would highly recommend it.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that about you.
In fact, they're so safe. You can actually fly a glider younger than you can fly a glider at 14.
Really?
Yeah. And they're basically planes without engines.
Well, I guess you can. The reason you can fly them younger is because they are not motorized.
Good afternoon.
Oh, that's my watch. You hear my watch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's 1:48.
Yeah.
But they are. I remember one day we were going. They had this thing called a lift condition. That certain cloud formation you get. And they were going up. We were going up to. So the pilots had gone up to 20,000 feet that day. They needed oxygen.
Really?
Yeah, I was with my instructor. We went up. We didn't have oxygen, but we went a little over what we were supposed to. And every minute, he'd say, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And then I'd check him just to make sure we weren't getting loopy. But we were looking down on planes that were flying into SFO. That's how high we were. We were above them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You know, I guess something else that I wouldn't have minded trying is parachuting.
That would scare the hell out of me.
Well, it would scare the hell out of you, but why? You know, I mean, I have a fear of heights. Okay.
Oh, me too.
But I don't have a fear of heights when I look outside a plane, an airplane window.
Right. I don't know why. Same thing.
And I've been told, the reason you don't have a fear of heights in an airplane, and you probably wouldn't jumping out of one, is that you don't. If you're standing in a building and you're looking down at the ground, you see a parallel to the ground from the building. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you're in an airplane, you have no parallel view to the ground. You're just looking at it. And it's a whole different thing than if you're in a building looking out the window. All right? So, like here, I live on the 8th floor of a building. I don't get near the windows, you know.
Yeah, I can't look over the edge of a building.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the reason why. And so I never had a. So I often felt that I could parachute, and the only thing I would worry about is that the parachute wouldn't open. But once it opened, I think I pretty much have it. I'm okay as long as the parachute opens. And you have a second parachute, by the way, just in case that one doesn't open. And if that one doesn't open, then you're really up Schitt's Creek. But
I've talked to people that have done that, and they say when you're free falling, you feel like you're floating. You don't feel like you're falling.
Right. Probably the only time you really feel like you're falling is once the parachute opens up.
Yeah.
And you feel the drag.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I often thought but of course really? I'm not going to do it now. I'm too old for that. But if I were younger, I think I would try jumping out of an airplane.
Maybe we'll get you into a glider before you can do that.
You still can do gliding?
I can't. I'm no longer current, but I'm sure there's a place in New York where you could go for a ride.
Now you had to get a license, right? To get
a license, yeah. You go for your instructor, and then you have to take a written test, and you have to be approved to get your license. And
really?
So I made that far, and then stand-up popped up, and I kind of drifted away from gliding.
Well, folks, if you live long enough, you will hear things about bubbles you never knew before. Hey, Bubs, we've run out of time.
We have. Now I want to go for a glider flight.
Yeah. Talk to you soon. Let's do it next week, okay?
You got it.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is GABNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey,
Everybody, welcome back to the program. I'm Alex Bennett. This is the Ramble, and that was Larry Bubbles Brown, and he's here every week because I love having him on every week. I love talking to the guy. He makes me talk, is what he does. He helps me to talk. So I enjoy his company, and we alternate him with Will Durst is on occasionally, and my ex-wife is on occasionally, and also Stephen Pearl, who we shall have on, I guess, next week. Let me see here. Let me open up the Skype lines. In case you don't know what the show is about, we have a discussion between a whole bunch of people, and those bunch of people are people who call this program, and we don't just talk to one of them. You know, most talk shows, it's one-on-one. This is one-on, it's a gangbang is what it is. It's one on a group of people, okay? One on, well, we can get upwards to, I don't know how many people we can do now. Supposedly we can do up to 25, but I wouldn't want to do that. We usually get about, 5, 6, 7, upwards to 9, 10. And we have had upwards to 12, but at that point it gets a little unwieldy. But it makes for great discussion, and it allows people to talk with other people and to get to know each other and to discuss their differences and to perhaps argue. And also you have the host, which is me, and I sit here waiting for somebody to call so I don't have to keep doing a tap dance while I'm waiting for somebody to call. Usually they're ready to call immediately as soon as the interview is over with, but, well, here comes Phil Meyer. He's the first one in. Lucky me. There he is. Phil Meyer, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Phil?
I'm just fine, thanks. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
So you're eager to go fly in a glider?
Glider? I wouldn't mind doing a glider. Would you?
You know, hang gliding kind of appealed to me, and those
turn up your mic.
Small
turn up
little
your
ultralights.
Turn up your mic a little bit, okay?
Really?
You're not low. You're just not high enough. Okay. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Right. Good.
All right.
Okay.
Ultralights have always appealed to me. To be able just to, touch down on a beach and take off. It's
yeah, but those are motorized, right?
Yeah, very small motor.
Yeah.
But
what scares me, I mean, why I'm just amazed at Bubs, is that the gliding isn't just flying a plane. That's flying a plane with no engine.
Yeah, you have to understand the updrafts and how to go in the current of the wind.
Yeah,
and I've always had this reoccurring dream, even when I was a kid, that I could just raise my arms and sort of like the flying nun, just fly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have that.
But gliding could be a lot of fun. I think it could be a lot of fun. Is it just going to be you and me? Usually Charlie's in here by now, and usually Jeff is in here by now, and it's just you and me. Oh, my God, it's mano a mano.
Yeah. Let's see. Something is trying to send me an email, and I'm trying to close it, and it won't. I don't know. Okay, I got it. Got it out of the way. Oh, here we go. Here's Charlie. I wondered. Usually Charlie has been like the first lately. He's are you a scaredy cat, as what's her name said, the Pelosi?
What?
She was calling Republicans scaredy cats.
Really?
Today.
Oh, I didn't hear her calling Republicans scaredy cats.
I guess just being alone with a Republican.
I mean, what are they supposedly scaredy cats about?
Just the back and forth, the asking Schiff to resign. These attacks.
You got to admit, Schiff really read him a riot act today.
He did, and so did a lot of others. I mean, they said that they had proof, and I'm looking forward to.
Well, they always
when
say,
they release the full.
They always say they have proof, but they don't have proof.
No,
it's just an idle. Who doesn't have proof? The Democrats?
No, I am looking forward to a release of as much of the report.
Well, it's going to be interesting because I think we could find that the Attorney General perhaps jumped the gun on what he was doing.
I think you're suffering.
No, hold on a second. I think we may find that out. I don't know if that's what we will find out, but I think there's a chance that if you've got a 300-page report, as this is reported to be, that it's got a little more to it than just a 4-page summary.
Well, what's his Rosenstein is planning on retiring as soon as that report had come out. So maybe he'll get subpoenaed, and there'll be some more information. I don't believe that if there was no collusion, then it's really hard to have obstruction.
Well, if there's no, here's what makes no sense at all. Well, Charlie, let you say something first, then I'll say, I guess.
Well, see, that's a fallacy. You can have obstruction. Say I did not rob a bank, and a grand jury wants to have a trial or whatever about whether or not I robbed the bank. That doesn't give me the right to impede that trial. It doesn't give me the right to impede that investigation. Just because I'm innocent, I still have to not impede the investigation.
But Charlie, when the prosecutor says, I can't find any proof that they did or they didn't.
Yeah, but
Mueller also added the point that he couldn't find the proof that he obstructed justice or couldn't prove obstruction of justice. On the other hand, he couldn't exonerate the president either. He said
Did he use the word exonerate?
I think it was exonerate or something similar, very similar.
I think he said that he couldn't prove that there was or there wasn't. There was no talk of exonerate. The exoneration stuff was the Democrats.
He said it doesn't exonerate him either. Just because he didn't prove that he did it doesn't prove that he didn't either.
But just remember, you're innocent until proven guilty. And
then I suppose you should tell your president that.
Why?
Because all the time he's saying that people are guilty when they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, like for instance, today Jesse Smollett.
Well, no, Jesse Smollett is your friends from Chicago.
My friends from Chicago. He's a friend of mine. I don't know him.
Yeah, well, he's a Democrat. He's asking now for $100,000 for the cost of the investigation.
Yeah.
And
but here's what your boy Donald Trump wrote today: FBI and DOJ to review the outrageous Jussie Smollett case in Chicago. It's an embarrassment to our nation.
It is.
The man was not charged.
Their charges were dropped, and I think
the charges were dropped. Yes,
with Obama's second in command, Michelle Obama.
You're absolutely wrong about that. You're so wrong about that, Phil. You're listening to those fucking right-wing talk shows that are passing off this kind of shit. Michelle Obama didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah,
the Obamas have no power at all.
They were friends.
Yeah, let's go back to Benghazi, okay? Obama. Let's go back to Benghazi. I think we could probably flog that for about a week and a half.
I think once they get that one straightened out, Hillary will be in cuffs.
I see. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
51st
Jason, hi. Are you there, Jason?
Jason,
he's frozen.
You froze for.
He's frozen, yeah.
He's frozen. Oh, boy. Oh, well.
Is there a new Skype or something?
What do you mean?
Skype looks different.
Skype? It's been acting weird. They must have done something.
I have no idea because I don't use the new Skype.
Yeah. I'm not in a bubble. I'm in a rectangle. I have 3 large rectangles, and I can't drag my picture anywhere to figure out what to do with it.
Well, welcome to the wonderful world of fucking Skype. You know. Yeah, there we just lost Jason.
Gone
He'll
now.
probably call us right back. No, I mean, but this whole thing, I don't know where you get this whole thing. Michelle Obama was in on the Jussie Smollett release. Yeah,
I wish
right.
I'd write these things down.
Well, I
as
wish
hear
you'd
them.
also hear them as they are reported, and
did hear it as it was
then also
reported.
question them. If
Why don't you look it up?
I'm sure you
Michelle
heard it.
Obama's-
I'm sure you heard it on Michael Savage's show.
You got a hard on for Michael.
No, I
Savage.
don't have. Oh, yeah, I do have a hard on for Michael Savage because I know the man,
Yeah,
and he is a prick.
That's probably true. He got beat up in Tiburon.
He deserved
in a
it.
restaurant.
He deserved it.
Yeah, some guy sucker punched him or something.
Oh, I wish more people would. Yeah.
That's
I do not condone that statement.
no,
You do
it's
not
just
condone
free
that statement? I'm not a violent person, so I don't want anybody to get hurt, but if anybody should get hurt, it probably is Michael Savage. Anyway.
Yeah.
Gee,
Okay.
maybe I'll have
Anyway.
the Michael Savage police up here to, Here comes
Yeah.
Josh Wheeler. Haven't seen him this week. Hi, Josh. How you doing? Here he comes. Here he comes. There you go. Hey, Josh, maybe you can clear this up for us here. What exactly did Mueller say? He didn't say about obstruction of justice.
Well, we don't really know yet, but the synopsis I got was that he didn't really say one way or the other, from what I take it. I mean,
Well, he said at one
kinda
point
got the-
that this should not be
Oh, go ahead.
considered. He said this should not be considered exoneration, right?
Yep, he did.
No,
did he speak
He
publicly
did.
today or
I
something?
don't think he used the word exoneration because it's. Was it up to the?
I think I heard the word.
Exonerate?
Did you hear the word, Charlie? Exoneration?
Yeah, I heard the word
Yeah.
exoneration.
I heard it from the Democrats. And
No.
it was like
No.
over
This was
and
in the
over.
this was in the 4-page thing that asshole wrote.
It was the one
yeah.
quote.
Yeah,
One full quote.
one full quote, because most of the things he was putting in there were like partial sentences. They weren't whole chunks of what was being said. So,
Did Mueller make some public comments? Did I miss that?
No, I don't think
Not
he
yet.
did. No, these were from Barr, I thought.
yeah,
Okay.
but Mueller said something to the effect of this should not be considered exoneration.
Yeah, that was the gist that I got of it. I mean, it was almost like he said, or I took it as maybe, I'd really like to prosecute a case here, but I just can't meet, the undeniable, burden of proof that the prosecution in this country is usually under in order to basically, to file a charge.
And you got to remember that all the people involved in this, Barr, Mueller, Rosenfeld, are all Republicans.
They were all. But
Yeah.
Trump kept talking about the Democratic witch hunt. The Democrats had nothing to do with it.
They were all Republicans involved in this
Yeah.
witch hunt. Yeah, exactly. Who's Eddie Jordan? Do we know an Eddie Jordan? Do I know that name? Hello. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let's see if his phone comes into play here. There he is, and there's Eddie Jordan. Have you been on before, Eddie?
No, this is the first time.
This is the first time. Hi, Eddie. How are you?
Good.
Where are you calling from?
Right now I'm in a little village outside of Thailand.
You're in Thailand. Boy, you're kind of breaking up on us. You're freezing. But oh boy, too bad.
I think it's pretty warm in
Very
Thailand.
good connection.
What'd you say? What did you say, Eddie?
I have a very poor connection, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think you have a poor connection. You might. Are you using a portable machine or that's movable?
Yeah, I'm on
You might try.
iPad.
You might try to move it closer to wherever the Wi-Fi is.
Oh, I'm just on I'm on a phone line.
You're on a phone line.
Wireless line. Oh.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, now your picture
Maybe
changed.
that-
Oh, there we go. Now it's much better.
I'm outside in the sun now.
Yeah, it's much better if you stand if you go back to a little bit
I'm standing
back.
in the middle of the street, though.
Oh, well, I can't have you
don't
standing
do
in the
that.
middle of the street for this. Where again in Thailand?
Pitsanulok. It's in the central part of Thailand.
Yeah.
I'm here visiting with my wife and at her grandma's house.
Oh, wow.
This is their
Wow.
little farm here
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
down by the river.
That's one thing I love about Skype is all the wonderful places we get to go without actually going there. You
That's
know.
the closest
Yeah.
I'll get there.
Yeah, you had to
Well,
pay
I've
for the
listened to-
what?
I've listened a long time, and I'm sitting around here doing nothing, and I got the alert that you were on, so I figured I'd call in.
Yeah. So you're using a phone line, you say? You're using a phone system?
Yeah, I've got my phone, and I'm hotspotted to my iPad.
Ah, okay. But isn't that going to cost a lot of money in foreign use?
Skype is free.
I have a Thai SIM card that I put in when I get into Thailand.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And
No, Skype's
like $15 or $20 a month.
Phil, Skype is free, but the phone usage isn't.
Yeah, it's the data usage, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yes, and if you use your data in another country, that could cause problems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're roaming.
Yeah, if you're roaming.
I'm waiting to see my bill that I'm going to get from the
It's
Bahamas.
all on my SIM card from Thailand.
Right. So, there's Jason's back again. Hi, Jason.
How's it going? I said one word and my internet went out.
Oh, really? Just completely out?
I looked over, I see the green lights flashing, and I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, wow.
That's AT&T, huh?
Well, we have Eddie down here who is in Thailand. Gee, now if we got breeder calls from Dubai, that would be kind of like really international, you know?
And then Richard from Norway.
Norway, yeah, Richard, if you're in Norway, give us a call, right? You know, that's that.
Eddie,
what?
how long do you stay in Thailand? And are you a regular visitor, or is this just a quick trip?
I think he's frozen again.
Oh
boy, I think that's going to be a difficult go there. That Thailand,
the hot spot.
Yeah. It's not working very well. I think he's frozen. Are you there? Eddie? Can you hear us, Eddie? Now the picture changed. Now it's changing again. There we go. Now can you hear us? Can you hear us, Eddie? Eddie, I think we're going to have to kind of terminate the call only because you're chopping up so much that.
I'm thinking.
But if you get a chance and you get yourself into a place where you know you've got a good signal, please call us. We'd love to talk to you. Okay.
Okay, I'll be back in the States in a couple of weeks.
Okay, do that. Really, call us when you get back to the States. I'd really appreciate it.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and back to Wi-Fi. Thank you, Eddie, for calling.
All right.
Bye-bye. Yeah, wow, that was kind of nice, you know.
Hey, Kevin, it's a shocker.
Yeah.
Is it working?
We're back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is it working,
They
Kevin?
turn it on yet, Kevin?
Yeah, it's turned on, but we've had some issues.
Oh.
Now, what we should explain is that Kevin has a bum what?
Bum legs.
Bum legs, and they hurt a lot. They have pain. So they have embedded in his, where is it, your back?
Yeah, basically my spare tire.
Yeah, your spare tire. In your back, electronic device, which they then he came over to the house and turned it on, and you had to go down to the doctor's office and have it.
No, I went to the doctor. They programmed it on, was it Monday?
Yeah.
They pulled the staples out.
Oh, okay. Now tell me, how are you feeling now that it's working?
Well, it takes a couple days to wash in, right?
Yeah.
So they programmed it with some program on Monday, and it seemed like it was working okay. And then was it yesterday? I was screaming bloody murder because I was having all kinds of shooting pains in my foot.
Wow.
And I was literally yelling for the guy to call me because they're supposed to call every day or two and check on it. And so we reprogrammed it, and it calmed everything down today. So, so far, it takes some tweaking. So it's going to take. It could take a couple of months. It could take a couple of weeks. Could take a couple of days. Who knows?
In case people aren't familiar with this program, this is more like a doctor's waiting room than it is a citizen panel. I mean, Phil lost his prostate. Charlie lost a couple of toes. And Kevin's got this thing in his back to stop the pain that he has in both his legs.
It's a spinal cord stimulator.
Do you have anything wrong with you, Josh? Is there anything defective with you?
I mean, other than the drinking and the taking the pills, I'm pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Not much other than that.
And Jason, you're too young to have any real problems, right?
I'm older than Josh, so.
You're older than Josh? But Josh, how old are you again?
36.
Why'd you have to think about that?
Because I really, honestly, I really can't ever remember.
A stage in your life that you just kind of forget. Like, yeah.
I think it's 36.
Again, how old?
Seriously, I never can remember.
And Jason, how old? Jason, how old are you?
38.
38. Okay. Well,
I've worked in heavy industry for a long time. I mean, in all honesty, my back is pretty bad. I mean, but
Coastmean chondroitin.
I mean, it's not really much I can do about it. I mean, take fucking pills.
Glucosamine chondroitin, man, helps out a lot. Get teeter hang-ups.
Hey, you could be like me and not listen to people like my age yelling at guys your age saying, slow down.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I can't slow down. You gotta go faster. You gotta do more.
I didn't.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to do anything to work myself into disability. I mean, it's just the jobs that I've had have required,
Yeah. Well,
they're pretty physical, and it's just you just get shit done, but you just kind of pay a price for it.
No, I know. I drove truck for 30 years, so.
Yeah.
Well, I have neuropathy and maybe prostate cancer, but it's the good prostate cancer.
I don't have anything.
Not yet.
No, I went to the doctor. He said my blood pressure was good and my cholesterol's good.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. We're glad you're the healthy one of the group.
But my mother's driving me crazy.
Well, Jason, you're healthy, right?
Yeah, I'm healthy.
Yeah. I mean,
except same thing. I got
when I was 38.
I got sore bad back.
If it turns out I have the prostate cancer, they give me some hormones or something, and that takes it, just minimizes it completely. So, my age, there's the good prostate cancer and the bad one. The bad one is what Phil had. And the one that you get when you're like 79 or 80. Most men at age 80 have prostate cancer of some sort, and they just treat it with hormones, or sometimes they treat it with radiation. But for the most part, it's just look and see, and make sure it doesn't get large, doesn't cause a real problem. So. Because here's how they put it, and I love it because it makes me feel so good. They say something else will probably kill you before the prostate cancer will. And I'm thinking, gee, that's something to look forward to. God, that's good news. So anyway, he said to me, he said, he says, if you've got the prostate cancer, the slow one, he said, I can keep you going alive till you're 95. And I said, I was planning on living to 100. And he said, well, that's thinking.
That'll cost extra?
Yeah, that'll cost extra. He said, what makes you think you're going to live to be 100? I said, my mother lived to be 100. And he said, oh, wow. So I said, you better rethink your plans here, pal. Give me the stuff that's going to make me live forever. Anyway.
See, I feel so bad there's such a joke in there that they're treating you with hormones. And it's like, are those whores unionized or what?
Well, how do you make the old joke? How do you make a hormone refuse to pay her? Boom. So,
hey, today they said no more legalized marijuana in New York. That it's off the ballot or something. They're not going to fund it.
They're smoking it like crazy though, all over the place. You can just see them walk around in Barbie. They're not even arrested.
Yeah, but Cuomo came out and said he wasn't going to fund it, or
I don't know. Why don't you get the story straight before you come to us?
Because I don't really give a shit what Cuomo.
Well, then
says.
why did you even bring it up?
Have they passed?
No, all I'm saying is before you come up with something,
you don't know about it.
No, I don't know
about
about
six
it.
TVs. You watch them all.
I watched the 6 o'clock
program
news.
on each channel.
I watched
and
the. I watched the local news, and it wasn't on the local news, Phil.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll go look it up. I'll see where it is here because
you don't want me to look.
It's probably right next to that article about.
You guys have medical, but not recreational.
It's probably right next to that article about Michelle Obama.
Oh yeah,
doing
the
Jesse Smollett thing.
Yeah, let me find.
I've got to, every now and then I like to make Phil happy. Okay, because don't we all like to make Phil happy now and then? We don't hate Phil. We'd like him to be happy. Right?
He had a big job this week.
I'm very happy.
But he comes on this show, and it's like, it's like everybody is assailing him, as well they should, because he's out of his fucking mind. But when I find a story that I think will give Phil great happiness, I'm happy to read it to him. And this is one that I have in front of me.
Tell me a story.
Well, this is one I'm surprised you didn't even pick up. MSNBC show host Rachel Maddow isn't backing away from her coverage of President Donald Trump and any connection to Russia's involvement in trying to influence the 2016 presidential campaign. But the question is, how long will her fans want to listen? The story that they wrote in the Associated Press by David Bodner explains Maddow's audience has dipped on her 2 days back on the air since the Mueller report came out.
It'll be short term.
Yeah, it says her audience of 2.5 million on Monday was 19% below her average this year, and it went down to 2.3 million on Tuesday. On the other side of the ledger, Bowder writes, meanwhile, her head-to-head competitor on the Fox News channel, Sean Hannity, saw his audience soar on Monday to 4 million viewers and a 32% increase from his average. It slipped to 3.57 million on Tuesday. He says Hannity and Maurer have run neck and neck atop the news cable ratings this year, with Maddow having a slight edge. So, Phil, you can be very happy. Rachel Maddow, now that the whole Mueller thing is over, appears to have lost her audience.
I think it's short-lived. She based her show, her monologues were basically that Mueller was going to come out with salacious shit on Trump. And when that didn't happen...
I'm
going to tell you what I think. I'll give you I'll give you a better answer as to what happened. Okay? Because it happened in this very household, okay?
Yeah.
After the Mueller report came out, my wife and I could not watch MSNBC. And the reason for that is we got the bad news. We didn't want to hear any more about it. We just didn't want to hear the endless hours of them trying to parse the Mueller report. Charlie, you seem to be agreeing. Did you do the same thing?
Well, I haven't been able to watch MSNBC for a long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yes, Jason.
So has Mueller said anything since he's released the report?
I think I'm coming home for dinner, dear.
So, this, what's his name, Barr or whatever, he could just be talking out of his ass completely.
Right. Well, what he did, there were two aspects to this report. One was the Russia thing, in which he found that Mueller found that the
Trump
campaign did not collude with the Russians to throw the election. Okay?
During the election.
During the election. Could have done it before.
When else could they have colluded?
Before
and after.
Well, he was doing business there.
Before he could have done it before. But anyway. But there was a second part, and the second part was obstruction of justice. And in that particular case, Mueller could not come to a decision, and said that while he couldn't come to a decision, that does not mean that he's exonerating him of having done that.
He said he couldn't come to a conclusion.
So that what it was left to was William Barr to decide whether he was going to throw obstruction of justice charges against the president, and he found he decided, well, I'm not going to, because he stated in the past there's no way a president can be found guilty of anything. It's been his take on it.
Do you think that Rod Rosenstein is in cahoots with Trump? I don't think so after what Trump's done to him for the last couple of years.
I think he's a Republican, and I think that his thinking is quite like Bill Barr's is that the president has rights, and his right is not to get there's no such thing as obstruction of justice that a president can do. That's William Barr. So in other words, he's looking at the possibility that there's obstruction of justice and refuses to look at it. And so, therefore, he took him off the hook on that. So that was Barr's determination.
Just to put on the record, when this is all exposed, and if they clear Trump of any what is it? Not the collusion, the obstruction charges. Will you recognize that and recognize that Trump didn't do anything if he's cleared?
I still recognize that Trump lost by 300 million, or was it 3 million votes?
He won by many electoral votes.
Yeah, well, that's kind of saying the dog ate my homework. Okay.
Hey, the 3 million illegals that voted in California, they don't count.
Oh, bullshit. 3 million illegals voted.
When the framers of our Constitution created this whole system, of which part of it was the electoral vote system, they never considered that this was going to be the outcome of having.
And remember, those framers were illegal immigrants.
Yeah, they were.
Well, what they considered was that all the states would have a say, not just 3 of them.
Yeah, but you can't have equal equal say, because, like, for instance, as an example, every state gets at least 3 electoral votes, 2 for a senator. You get one for your 2 senators, and then every representative you have. That's how the electoral count is made in that state. In a place like, I don't know, where is it, South Dakota or something, where they have like just 3 electoral votes. That is split up among a certain amount of the population. When you take the amount that California hasn't split up among the population, their people are much stronger than California. You get what I'm saying? In other words, in California, that percentage of their electoral vote, if you were to parse it out among the population, is much smaller than one person or a group of people in say, South Dakota. It doesn't work right.
Well, it doesn't work right for you.
No, it doesn't work right. It doesn't work right for me because I'm an American, and when I was growing up, I heard that whoever got the most votes won. That was just how. No, wait a minute. Forget about
system.
It. Well, this system's fucked. Well, and it needs to be changed.
You would think the system's fucked no matter who it was or what it was.
Do you know what I'm trying to? Hold on, shut up, Phil. Do you know what I'm trying to say, Josh, or Jeff? Jeff just went. Yeah, I'm trying to explain it. And I can't exactly explain it, but that
this is the way people understood, because every year in your life until Trump came up, it was always the guy who not only won the public numbers, but he also...
No, there was one other time.
No, there was Bush.
There was Bush.
I thought there was like 3 times.
McKinley or somebody?
Yeah, but there was Bush.
Well, I thought McKinley didn't count.
He died.
When I was a teenager, I didn't talk to him.
Yeah,
you didn't vote for him, but Alex did.
I voted for McKinley. Right? Oh, fuck you. Hello, Patrick.
The whole system was. I mean, I just think to look at it in perspective, that entire system was born out of a major compromise at the convention, and the reason why is because the one thing you have to remember about the convention is the entire convention from the minute that it started, literally until the minute that it ended, was all basically a large state, small state, battle. I mean, it was constantly large state, small state. So when it finally came down to the election of the one nationwide, representative, the president of the United States, the large state, small state battle obviously hadn't gone away, and it wasn't going to go away, and everyone realized it. And, it was the only way they felt like there could be a voice for small states and the representative. I mean, the big fear was that, and if they didn't have the compromise, they felt like every president that we elected was going to be from, Virginia or, New York or something along those lines. Now, it turns out that that's what happened anyway.
Yeah.
So it didn't really work out that well for him because, 4 of our first so many ever presidents were from large states anyway, particularly Virginia. And the second thing about it was, in the large state, small state battle, Madison, one of the principal framers of the Constitution, correctly let everyone know that he felt like when all was said and done, that and the Union was formed, it would not be large state, small state battle lines any longer. He felt like the future conflict in this Union would be sectional. In other words, he could foresee free state versus slave state. And our conflict was sectional. The large states didn't go to war with the small states. It was a sectional issue. So, he foretold that correctly. So I guess it is fair to say that, I don't bemoan people who feel the way Alex does, that, he no longer feels that system is, needed.
Right. It was the technology at the time.
Yeah. Jeff.
I thought it was Madison who really came up with that strategy, and I thought it was brilliant to take, 12 different states,
13,
complete 13 totally different states, from size, from area, for relationship. I mean, Rhode Island is still in there. It's like, how many people were in Rhode
and maybe
Island
that made a lot of sense when you didn't have a population of 300 million, and you didn't have 50 states.
It makes the same sense now as it did then.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It only makes sense to you now because Trump won that way.
Big states
if a Democrat won that way, you'd be here belly aching that our president wasn't elected by the people. He just got it by electoral vote.
I never belly ached when the guy got 270.
And to be, I guess, historically correct, the principal broker of the Electoral College was a man named James Wilson, who was a delegate from Pennsylvania and had only lived in America for about since 1765. He was an immigrant from Scotland, and I know this because I wrote my master's thesis on a guy named James Wilson. So, but he was the principal architect of the compromise. Really, that compromise though kept the convention. It was one of the 2 or 3 compromises that kept the convention from breaking up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the best they could do at the time.
At the time. So it was based.
But it is a fair conversation.
Yeah.
See, if they would have just built a wall, then his ass wouldn't have gotten in.
Yeah. Fuck them, those immigrants. Yes, Patrick.
Well, all the Democrats that have won in the past, you haven't heard any Republican calling for the elimination of the the Electoral College. So
no Democrats ever lost the popular vote and still won.
How about Al Gore?
There was one. There was one, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, Gore.
No. Al Gore won the popular vote.
Yeah.
There was one. Who was the first one? I think it was a Democrat lost the popular vote but won the Electoral College, and then the next 2, Bush and Trump.
Yeah, the reason why I think it happens now, if you want my opinion, is because of the gerrymandering by the Republicans in a lot of these states that gerrymandered the congressional districts and therefore changed the nature of the electoral vote. That
they're still coming from.
Yeah.
Well, if you've only got 1 or 3 votes,
well,
how much can you gerrymander?
Okay, here there are a handful of states that actually determine the election, and one of them is, for instance, Ohio. But you compare it to the rest of the country. I mean, so what? We forget about the people in California, who certainly, who an amazing amount of people live there, and I don't know how many live here in New York. I think California is the most populous state, if I'm not mistaken.
They'll still get more representatives. Now
they'll get more representatives, but if you gerrymander just right, they won't be Democrats. And the Republicans played the gerrymandering game. The Democrats didn't, and the Democrats were stupid not to do it. Yes, Tony.
Do you think maybe they're giving too many votes, electoral votes, to California? Maybe.
No, you're saying
if you were to do it by a percentage of the population, like for every 100,000 people, there's one electoral vote. Let's just say that for argument. California would have something like, I think they said if they based it upon a certain dynamic, that California would have something like 250 electoral votes, not just 89 or 80
so that would
or
allow
70.
Them to control the entire process.
No, because a lot of other states would also have more. But
the high population states.
You would like something where, if you're going to have an electoral college, that it pretty much mirrors the way the population has voted. And there are some states now that are asking that their electoral votes, no matter what, all go to the person who got the most popular vote in the United States.
And that's the thing with the gerrymandering, that they'll talk about Ohio being a deciding state, but then in Michigan, every time there's a presidential election, they always talk about Macomb County. That's where I live, and you'll see them on CNN, you'll see them on Fox News. What's Macomb County gonna do? Why is one county in the state of Michigan, which Macomb County, it's a blue collar, county, usually half the time votes Republican. How did they have so much power? One county in Michigan.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that this new idea that the states can determine what they're going to do about the electoral votes, and their idea is that they just say that whoever got the majority of the popular vote is the way that state will vote when it goes to the electoral college in January. I think it's January 5th or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh.
I didn't hear the last part.
The electoral college, I think they meet like on January 5th or something like that.
I think it's December.
I can't remember the day that they typically meet. I do think it's in December.
Oh, okay. December 20th, maybe?
Inauguration, because Congress usually seats like 2 weeks before, 2-3 weeks before the inauguration, which is always the 20th of January. So I do think it's somewhere in December. But I mean, there is some people who, might say you could have an argument to balance out, such as, why does a state like California or New York or whoever, get so many electoral votes and the small states only get a few? But there was some argument that, maybe they deserve it, because not only do the most people live there, obviously, but they pay the most money to support the federal government. They pay to pave the roads in North Dakota and South Dakota and Nebraska and et cetera, et cetera. And so maybe they should have, some more say. I mean, I guess America is founded on, everyone being equal and everything. So I guess I'm just putting it out there as kind of, these are some of the counter arguments.
Yeah, but what would be so wrong?
Maybe not such a travesty that they do have.
What would be so wrong with doing away with the electoral college at this point in history, and just basing it on who gets the most votes wins? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if anything puts a balance, makes the balance wrong, it's the electoral college now. And after all, I really hate the fact that people they treat the Constitution like it's this holy document that is got to be 100% right. And I'm thinking, They wrote this fucking thing how many years ago? And it was written for the zeitgeist, for the tempo of the times. And, you know, some of the older articles of the Constitution do bear looking at again. Yes, Charlie.
Like freedom of the press.
You know, we have this idea that all men are created equal, but that's not true when voting for president because of the Electoral College. One vote in South Dakota balances out, 15 or 20 votes in California because of the way the representation is. California does not get proportionally greater number of electoral votes.
The electoral votes, the electoral votes are not proportionate to its population.
Votes are not equal.
Yeah, it's not. It's way out of proportion to say a state that only has 3 electoral votes, and is a small state, but because of that, it proportionately per person per hundreds of thousands of people or whatever you want to use as the yardstick. A small state like that has actually more voting power than California does per person. So, is that right? No, it's not right. You know, what do you mean move, Phil?
Yeah, you want more voting power? You know, go to Rhode Island.
I don't want to go to Rhode Island. Jeff's happy up near there. You're in what, Connecticut, right?
Hey,
yeah.
Josh, talking about the Constitution, there was a signer of the Constitution that always kind of intrigued me. His name was Button Gwinnett, and this was the only document, to my knowledge, that he had signed and the only time he ever appeared in history. Are you familiar with that?
Not really, no, in detail. I mean, you know, of the 55 men or whatever, you know, who attended the convention. I mean, some of them were pretty obscure people. I mean, he's not, you know, there's not just one guy who was a mystery. There were probably only about, I don't know, let's say 7 or 8 really prominent people that were, you know, delegates at the convention and later went on to, you know, pretty heavy careers. I think, you know, a lot of them continue to serve in government more than just those 7 or 8, but only maybe 6 or 8 guys were.
Well,
you know, prominent.
A good example would be Alexander Hamilton, who made it big on Broadway.
Right.
You know.
I didn't see it.
I mean,
wasn't he shot
most
by
prominent,
Andrew Dice Clay?
Yeah, he was shot by Andrew Dice.
And the most prominent of all delegates was Washington, and Washington did basically nothing at the convention other than sit in a chair, you know, with a stern look on his face, and you know, he only spoke I think twice, and one of those was to scold someone for letting their notes, you know, drop on the floor.
Well, he was setting the tone for Clarence Thomas.
I mean, Washington was at the convention.
I'll do that joke again. He was
result.
setting the tone for Clarence Thomas by not saying anything.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Good. I finally got the joke.
I mean, he was there to set the tone so that the people would accept the result of the convention. I mean, you know, basically. Yeah. I mean, he gave it the credibility that it needed to succeed.
Is it true what I heard though, that they didn't want to make Washington president, they wanted to make him king?
Well, that's what they knew.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
And then it was
so.
Washington, and it was Washington who said, "I don't want to be king. We've had enough trouble with that already. I think the person who heads this country should be the president."
No, yeah. I think that would be more, you know, fiction than fact.
Well, then how did they come up with the idea of a president? Because I don't know if anywhere in the Western world there were things like presidents of countries. There were usually kings or queens, and that was about it.
Yeah, there were really not. I mean, you know, very many examples of that in history, which is why, you know, our formation of government was, you know, thought of basically as an experiment, because, you know, it really was. But I mean, the model was based on, you know, basically created mostly by Madison, although he gets overcredited for a lot of it. But, you know, I mean, it was based on a study that he basically did where he pretty much studied all the past governments of the world that he could find information on before he went to the convention for months and months. And he kind of sorted out in his mind the parts of what he thought worked best in other places and what he felt like didn't, you know, why governments rose and fell.
I think.
Hold on a second. Kevin, I heard something beeping there. Are you turning your machine up and down? Kevin, can you hear me?
His goose is cooked.
Yeah, I was going to say. I hear beeping coming from your end. Are you adjusting the pane?
Yeah, charging.
Oh, you're charging it.
Yeah, I got to charge.
Oh boy!
Just use a MasterCard.
Yeah, we're getting closer to RoboCop than we ever knew. You know.
So, Josh, what Alex I think was asking was there other governments around the world that had a president at that time?
I don't really think that they would have called it a president. No, there were a few governments that maybe had a figurehead at the top like that. But not really what we would consider basically what we have now. I mean, the main thing about the presidency is the presidency basically evolved. I mean, if man was created in the image of God, then the presidency was created in the image of Washington. I mean, is the best way that I know how to say it, because when they wrote the Constitution, obviously Washington was in the room. And there was not a single person in the room who didn't realize that not only was he in the room, but that he was going to be the first president of the United States. I mean, everyone knew that Washington was going to be the president.
Now, by the way, he was never, correct me if I'm wrong, he was never voted by the people to be president of the United States. He was voted by the Continental Congress.
Well, no, I mean, he won an election under the first Electoral College. But, you know, and it was somewhat of a popular vote like we have now, but the voting rights were pretty well restricted. Mm-hmm. You know, we didn't have quite we didn't have near the, what's the word they use for it? You know,
just landowners. Like
as many people. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of, you know, restrictions. But, I mean, he was elected under the same system that, you know, that we use now. The difference being that not nearly as many people were enfranchised, you know, to vote. But I mean, the presidency was created in his image and has evolved for that. I mean, we still have precedents today that we use because Washington did. I mean, you know, in other words, the first time an argument came up about whether or not a president could fire a member of his cabinet on his own, you know, at his will, you know, the answer was, of course he can. And when some people asked, well, how do you know that? The answer was, well, because Washington did it, and nobody said anything that you couldn't at the time, you know. And if it was good enough for Washington, then by God, it's good enough for some of these other bums, you know, we've had. So I mean,
hold on a second. We're being joined by Brian Neary, and Brian. Yes, if you can, try and turn on your camera and see what happens. Apparently, it's not wanting to kick in. What?
There we go.
Well, okay. Anyway, what were you going to say, Jeff? Wanted to say something.
Yeah, one of the things is my granddaughter and my wife and my daughter are going to Washington, D.C. Next week. And they're learning about a lot of the things we're talking about. And one of the things they're going to go is see Washington's house. And Washington, from what I understand, did not become a rich guy. He didn't make a lot of money. You know why? Because there was no restaurants. And so people used to come over to his house to see him, and he had to provide food for everybody.
Sponges coming over.
You know why he didn't make a lot of money? He wasn't a Democrat in government.
And he was an honest president. That's why he wasn't taking no kickbacks.
He chopped down the cherry tree. Don't believe that.
He wasn't trying to build hotels in Russia.
Yeah. Put his name on everything.
It was because of inflation.
By the way, a lot of people took their names.
Gosh, was I halfway?
A lot of people down in what was at one time called Trump City
literally sued their buildings and have had the name Trump taken off their buildings because they felt it lowered the property values, and since they were co-ops and they bought into them, they didn't want the property value going down because Trump's name was on the building.
Didn't they have a contract?
Hold on a second. Brian, you seem to be having a problem signing in, getting your camera going. What's the problem there, Brian? Can you tell me?
No, I don't know.
Oh,
can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. We can hear you fine.
Okay.
It's just the camera just keeps whirling around and whirling around and whirling around.
Yeah, I wonder
I wonder if it's
my picture on here either. So do you want me to try something?
Is it grayed
I'll
out?
tell you, hang up, reboot your computer,
mouse down around where the
reboot
little
your
icon
computer
is.
and try it
Yeah.
again. Okay?
Okay.
All right. All right.
You know, Alex,
One day I'll
sometimes-
get it right the first time.
Oh, don't worry about it.
I'm just
Brian.
wondering if
Everybody
his
has
camera is
problems.
grayed out. And you know how
Sometimes you
in
hit the
past,
microphone and you only call a voice call.
Oh,
right.
But in the past, we've had situations where the 9th and 10th caller couldn't get a.
Sometimes
a
that
video.
happens. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. But other times it doesn't. So,
But what I was saying before he called, though, you guys were talking about, Jeff was joking. I mean, honestly, a lot of our framers died in under pretty bad circumstances. I mean, a lot of them went broke. I mean, they were pretty prone to land speculation and high risk investments. That's why I've always said that, on here many times before, the more things have changed, the more they've stayed the same. I mean, they were just as greedy and just as stupid as we are now. I mean, they weren't these fucking holy men, these demigods from, the great beyond. I mean,
That's what I say. It was rich
the,
people who didn't want to pay their taxes.
Right. I mean, as I said before, James Wilson, the delegate I mentioned earlier that I wrote my master's thesis on, I mean, he was a sitting associate justice of the United States Supreme Court at the same exact time he was in jail he was in debtor's prison because he couldn't pay his debts. I mean, they jailed a sitting associate justice of the Supreme Court because he was so far in debt. And when he died, he was on the run from the law it was going to be picked up basically and jailed for a second time in debtor's prison and caught malaria in North Carolina on the run and died, without a penny to his name.
I thought that debtor's prison was eliminated in this country, that it was something that they had in England, but
no, they had debtor's prison here. I don't know when it was eliminated, but it
was eliminated in like 1905.
It was active certainly in the late 1780s and 90s for sure, because several of our founders were, in trouble with that. I mean, Wilson was the most prominent to actually, an associate justice. I mean, can you imagine an associate justice now basically allowed to continue doing some of his work from a jail cell? I mean, which is kind of how it went. I mean, and back then the associate justices used to what they call ride circuit, where they went out and handled cases in their districts and oversaw some of the lower judiciary. And he basically was out riding circuit and was got word that there was a writ, for his arrest for debtor's prison, and he'd already been in once, so the second time he just kind of was on the
Was
lam.
he divorced?
No, he was married.
By the way,
So
Brian, let me just speak to Brian a second. You're still whirling around. Apparently, maybe it has something to do with the fact that we have nine people.
So many people on.
10 people. Do we have 10 people here? Yeah, 10 people with me. And that it might be making it hard for you to get your camera on. So just stop with the camera so it's not whirling. Let's see that beautiful picture of your kid.
When you called, did you hit the microphone or did you hit the camera?
Oh, he obviously hit the camera because
You hit the camera.
Yeah, you hit the camera to initiate the call, right?
Yeah.
No, it was whirling around, which means it was trying to go to the camera, but he was having some kind of problem. Maybe if there was one less person here, he'd be able to get on. But
That's fine.
anytime you want to say something, Brian, just yell out Brian, and we'll recognize you. Okay?
Can I ask a question? Did you go in through the Gabnet's button for Skype, or did? Why don't you try it on a clean Skype connection, where you open up Skype, close the browser, and then click
Go to
on
connections.
Click on your contacts and get a fresh GapNet contact, and then open it up.
Yeah, try. Well, see, if he'd said all that with an Indian accent, that would have been fun.
Yeah. I would have had to ask if he had plugged in his computer.
Yeah. Sure okay. So let me hang up on you. Let me hang up on you and give that a try. I doubt if that will work, but Phil seems to think he's IT around here. So
I'm okay. If you're okay, I'm fine.
Okay, just call back in and try it that way. Okay.
Unplug it first.
We're interested.
25 cents.
Just to see if it'll work.
I don't really.
And Brian, if you'll give me your credit card, I will help you with this IT issue. We are from Microsoft, and we're here to help. We're from Windows.
Phil, you speak English too. It's easy to understand.
Just tell me your IP address.
I'm from New York. I don't speak English.
Tell me your IP address. Get me a Slurpee and a hot dog. We'll be fine.
Yes, Jeff. Yes, Jeff.
For my my wife's grandmother used to always say, "Speak United States."
Speak United States. Yeah. Yeah. I just think that we really need to relook at the Constitution. I think that it's so old and creaky that it needs some looking after.
I'm almost afraid if they do, the way that America is right now, what they might turn us into.
Yeah, you got a point.
Nazi Germany might look like it was like paradise.
Okay, so now Brian has been is on, and now click on your camera there, Brian, and let's see if you come in. See, Phil was wrong.
Drink. Everybody drink.
Everybody have a drink. Just wasted our goddamn time. Turn your camera off, Brian, and when you have something you want to say, just yell out at the top of your voice, Brian, and we'll recognize you, okay?
That's fine. Great,
okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, by the way, Brian, to what we've been talking about?
No, not right now. I was just so worried I was going to click on one of the old calls and yell at it.
No, don't worry about it. You're doing just fine, Brian. And probably if there was one less person here, you might actually.
Hey, Alex, do you want me to try to hang up and see if this picture comes in, and then I'll call back?
That's
a good little test.
Nah.
It was my idea. I'll drop off.
No. Just let's just talk here. Let's keep the show going. We're not doing a technical test of the emergency broadcast system here. What?
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying that I just find that we've got a how many years have we been around now? We're not 200 years, but
it's over 200.
It's over 200. It's well over 200. It's getting up around 250,
230 something.
Yeah. And that Constitution was written at a time where the whole world was different. And I agree with you, Jason, that maybe at this point we don't want to see them rewrite it because Americans are so fucking idiotic now. They'll writing clauses making Facebook a flag or something,
It's people like you wanting to destroy it that they have to worry about.
Enough with that, Phil. Enough with that. It's running a bit thin.
It was funny today. I ran into this lady. She was from Canada, and obviously she was an immigrant to Canada too. But she was looking for I think it's just called Burlington now, but it used to be Burlington Coat Factory. So she came over to Michigan to go shopping there, and she couldn't find it. And I was telling her, I'm like, oh, you're from Canada? If I was able to get into Canada, I'd have no reason to come back to the United States. And she started laughing and be like, why? I'm like, you watch the news? And she just started laughing even more.
Yeah.
Didn't you tell her that Burlington Coat Factory's in Vermont?
Yeah.
It is. I go to Burlington once a year, actually.
And they wouldn't have the fair electoral votes that California does. You'd be condemning them to mediocrity.
What are you saying,
Vermont.
Phil?
How many electoral college votes does Vermont have?
I don't know. They've got at least 3. Well, they got three.
Well, they got three.
The two the two senators.
Yeah, so they got 3 electoral votes.
3 total together.
Right, but split up among what size population? Then take whatever California has and split it up among that population, and you will see that the votes per 100,000 are far greater in Vermont than they are in California. Well, that's what I was trying. That's the point I was trying to make earlier, and I couldn't get it right in my mind, but I just got it right.
Well, you're welcome.
Yes, Jeff.
The only state in the United States that I never went to is North Dakota.
And there's a good question. Why would you want to go to North Dakota?
Well, here's my question. Does it exactly exist? Does anyone live there?
Well, to begin with, my question, and this has been a question that's been asked many times, both those states have such a small population. Why didn't they just make it Dakota? Right? Why did they decide they were going to split up the Dakotas into North and South Dakota? It just makes
then it would have been the name of a nation that was already there.
It makes no sense at all. You know.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
It's all cold as shit.
Yes.
Are there any other countries or anything that does something like this, like that we do? I mean, I know there are different, obviously different countries that are, governed differently, but are there any other countries in the world that have some kind of stupid electoral vote like this?
What you mean, like republics? Do all republics have an electoral college?
Well, most are the most votes win, right?
Well, most countries don't allow you to vote; they just shoot you.
Yeah.
By the way, you really have a bad attitude about what other countries are like. Believe me, a lot of them are much more civilized than we are, Phil.
Yeah, kind of like Venezuela.
By the way, I was just thinking, this Donald Trump thing where he talked about the outrageous Jussie Smollett case. I just found that the 2 cases this weekend that were most prominent was his case with Mueller and the Jussie Smollett case, and they both had a lot in common.
Mueller was an investigation, not a case.
Well, all I'm saying is that he got off the hook, and so did Jussie. And
Mueller was charged. Jussie Smollett was charged with 16 counts.
Yes, but then the charges were dismissed, so there are no charges.
Yeah, because of
all
collusion.
I'm saying is that 2 people got away with something this weekend. I think that's wonderful. Yes, Patrick.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because it sticked in my craw when the president tried to get involved with a private citizen.
Yeah.
Because I just saw in the news, it ran across the Chiron that Trump is going to have the FBI and the Department of Justice look into the Smollett case. And I think that that's bullshit. It's not his place to do.
Right.
But is he having them look into it, or is he?
I think they already are. They
already
are looking into it, but he kind of tries to make it look like he said, "Go get him."
Yeah.
And he didn't. They were looking into it far before he ever did this tweet.
Could what happened in Chicago be considered some sort of corruption?
No.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's corruption. It certainly is another case that lately we seem to be very pissed with people who are privileged getting away with shit. Okay? The whole school thing with movie stars and CEOs sending their kids to college on false premises, and this is another case of wealthy being privileged and being able to get away with something.
Yeah, but I think this one is so much worse than paying off to get your kid into a school.
The school thing, the guy from Yale, the coach, pled guilty today for trying to take $450,000 bribe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he?
So that's the first guilty plea.
The Smollett thing was handled like shit, though. I mean, when you got the Chicago Police Department first day going up there and preaching to the choir, he shouldn't have made that big old speech.
That speech was bad.
It was a bad idea.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. It might have been what he thought, but he shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
As you know, the cop. They should have just said, "We got him. We're going to investigate it. That's it."
Yeah.
And then the rest of them should have just shut up and let them do their jobs, and it probably wouldn't have been such a big deal.
Yes,
They're saying
Patrick has
Smollett's
his hand
thing
up.
was
Patrick has his hand up.
And okay, so after I heard about Trump dealing with, you know, apparently I misread it then. So, so if they're already investigating, that's fine. I just saw his name associated with it and thought, shut the fuck up. It's a private citizen matter. But he did something good also today, so it washed it out for me.
Yeah.
He against Betsy DeVos.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
And it's to fund the Special Olympics. So I thought that was at least a good gesture on his part that, you know, whether or not it was him or somebody else jabbing him saying, don't be an asshole on this, it was a good thing.
What?
Why should we waste American dollars on watching cripples throw a ball?
Because they can.
Because Jason, as somebody who has a plaque,
Yeah, he overrode DeVos.
I was talking, Phil.
Did
he?
As somebody who was given a plaque, as a citation for working for the Special Olympics. I think it's a wonderful organization. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think the idea of doing away with the funding to the Special Olympics was a particularly odorous kind of thing to do, you know. But it goes right along with everything else this fucking administration does. What?
They were trying to eliminate, I think it was $7 billion from education in the United States, period.
Yes.
Yeah,
that
might be a tearjerker, heartache type of thing, but eliminating $7 billion from education in the United States, period. That's
a lot of it was
ridiculous.
Yeah, and Betsy,
they want to increase $16 million to private schools.
Yes, because private schools suck. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's her pet.
Yeah, she probably has money in it somewhere. Yes, Patrick.
She does.
Well, maybe Wisconsin, particularly my area of southeastern Wisconsin, is different than the rest of the fucking country. But we have so many referendums that are passed for the local school district for various things that the taxpayers are hemorrhaging money into the school district. So when I see cutting education nationally, it doesn't do anything for me, because I look at all the taxes we pay here in Wisconsin for all of the public schools and that, due to various referendums to improve buildings or different programs. That I don't know if the rest of the nation, they don't do their own local or not, but we sure as hell do here. And
no. Everybody who lives anywhere pays taxes for schools.
We got
property
Patrick,
taxes.
You're paying that because the federal government isn't willing to pay that to your schools.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, what they're trying to do, is they're trying to squeeze out the public.
Yes, it is.
Hold on a second. What they're trying to do is squeeze out the public schools in favor of the private schools. For-profit schools, yeah. And that is a terrible, terrible thing. We should be doing everything we can to maintain a free education in this country and not in a non-profit school system. And I don't think anybody who has a profit-making school system should in any way get federal assistance. Okay? My thoughts. Anyway.
I don't think any of this stuff's important. Nicolas Cage is just filed for annulment 4 days after marrying his girlfriend. You know? This is what's important today.
What hour did he figure it was a bad marriage? I mean, come on.
He married his makeup artist or a makeup artist.
Huh?
He's probably wasted.
Well, isn't he the one that married Lisa Marie Presley?
Yeah, that lasted a few months.
Yeah.
Is he still living in Vegas?
Yeah.
Does he live in Vegas, or was that just a movie he made, Tony?
No, I think he lives. A guy who signs comic books for me. I'm not going to drop the store's name. They say that he has I don't want to say like he has a major drinking problem. He lives in Vegas. I'm almost positive. He did a signing out there. I know that. I can ask the guy.
Well, he did a movie. It's funny.
He married his girlfriend in Las Vegas, but a lot of people.
Yeah, I think he lives there. Yeah.
I think if that's the case, Tony, it's art imitating life because in leaving Las Vegas, he played someone who went to Vegas to drink himself to death.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't know anything, but from what he told me, this guy gets a lot of private signings with comic artists and actors, and he says like he's in and out of money a lot. It sounds like. Well, that's what he told me, and he's pretty viable. The guy.
He's never had what I consider a really successful career. Somehow
he was always like Coppola's nephew. I always thought.
He always made he made a lot of bad movie decisions.
Yeah.
You know what happens is, yes, you can do the stupid dumb movies for a big payday, but you in between those have to do a really good movie for almost absolutely nothing, so people know you have your chops as an actor, and you balance them. But Jennifer Lawrence went out and did all those wacko movies, those adventure movies and so on, X-Men, and what was the other one, the
Hunger Games,
Hunger Games, and so on. But then she turned around and would do something really good and really took great acting ability to do, so that she maintained a certain equilibrium. And
he's been in a lot of movies.
I could be wrong. I know the guy.
He's been in a lot of shitty movies, Phil.
He wanted to play Superman, the rumor was, in the comic industry. He kept trying to. How can he be Superman, for Christ's sake? I said to myself. Would you cast him as Superman?
Well, you know who they wanted before Reeves took the job? Robert Redford. No, Robert Redford. Can you imagine Robert Redford as Superman? Yeah.
Oh my God, that would have been terrible.
Also, the best one, the one I really liked was when they made Casablanca. You know who the first Rick was before they changed it to Bogart? Ronald Reagan.
Oh
Jesus!
He was a terrible actor.
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Who was
but
it?
they wouldn't bring on the chimpanzee.
Durst had said.
So he didn't take it.
They would have put.
And I think it was Durst who said, "Yeah, but then it'd be a really shitty movie." Nobody would remember Casablanca.
I was watching all movies. He used to do the introductions to General Electric Theater. I was watching all.
Oh yeah.
He used to introduce the movies.
Well, that's how he kept himself alive until he decided to go into politics. In fact, that's what kind of got him into politics. He used to go out to General Electric meetings and give a pep talk speech. And that pep talk speech became his major speech that he used in his campaign when he ran for president. It was kind of his place to do a rehearsal for running for office.
So he was a comedy fluffer?
Yeah. So.
Well, I can get those washing machines.
Yeah.
I used to watch he used to do because all the young actors were in it, and he used to introduce them. Who was going to be in the show tonight and whatever it was.
Yeah. I would have liked to have been around to get the motel receipts from Ronald Reagan for the motels that he rented out during making of what is it, Wildcats of the Navy? What was the movie he was in with Nancy Davis that he met her?
Oh God.
Yeah, and they used to supposedly go to a motel during a break and go fuck. If you can imagine fucking that skank.
Yeah.
Well, Phil,
to get away from disparaging dead presidents.
He was a terrible president.
You know the Purdue family that owns the company that makes OxyContin?
OxyContin? Yeah, OxyContin. I think that's Barbara Carton. She's an author, isn't she? And it's the same
Purdue.
company.
I think they make chicken.
OxyContin, Phil.
Well, I don't take
No, they don't. No, they're not the people that make chicken.
New York is suing them.
Yes.
The family.
Yes. It looks like Purdue may well go into bankruptcy because they're being sued by so many people.
as a
Hey,
result.
so the other day you guys were talking about on one of your shows about the advertisement that you don't see the advertisement out there like you did with the cigarette companies back in the 50s and blah, blah, blah. You don't see it, but your doctors do because you're at the same time you're talking about the hot chicks going into the doctor's office. That's what they're spending their money on, trying to push their Oxycontin.
No, well, actually, they're not doing that as much anymore. Okay, they're not
anymore. But when
they're
all
not
this
doing
shit
that.
was
Wait a minute, hold on a
happening-
second. Hold on a second. They're not doing that as much anymore. But the thing is that the reason they run all these ads on TV is because you then see an ad for something that might make you feel better. And when you go to your doctor next time, you're going to say, "Hey, why don't you give me that blah 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 that takes care of blah blah blah."
But that was the point. I think it was Josh who was saying that you don't see the commercials. There are not commercials for Oxycontin. They don't have commercials for pain pills. But that's where they're not spending the money on TV to get you to ask for it.
Yeah.
They're spending the money in the doctor's office with these little hot chicks with their little tiny micro mini scopes.
Well, that was
going in
years
there,
ago
bending
when I
over to
sat.
try to-
That was years ago when I sat in the office and they had those women going in there. I don't know if they still do. I don't know if that hasn't
they
been.
still do.
They still do. Okay.
Yeah, they still.
So,
you know,
so
you
we
see
haven't
them
gotten to the
walking
point
with
where we frown upon that, huh?
Hey, there's another one here that's interesting. Alex, this is a way for you to make money. The DEA needs contractors who can burn 1,000 pounds of weed an hour. So
I can do that, man.
I volunteer.
Just hand it to my wife. You know, she can take care of it for you.
Well, they ought to pay her for what she's doing.
Yeah, yeah. Why do they want to burn Why do they want to burn the weed?
It says DEA has put up their help wanted signs, but they need people that can destroy 1,000 pounds of marijuana an hour.
Why?
That's a crime.
Evidence labs, probably. They got all the evidence and stuff that they seize from people, and they need to destroy it.
You know, they fight like
Gives
crazy.
new meaning to the burn day.
They fight.
Right?
Yeah,
they fight like
they
fight like
local
crazy.
citizens'
Yeah.
willingness to offer their help.
Yeah.
Don't cops usually steal that stuff?
The DEA is really sweating the legalization of marijuana and the way it's encroached closely onto every state in the United States, because what it's going to do is it's going to put some of them out of a job.
Yeah,
it's because they're seizing a tremendous amount of illegal drugs.
Well,
Plus,
but they can seize it all they want to. There's going to be a day when those drugs just aren't going to be illegal, and you can't call them that.
Well,
It's
it depends on
being
how they come in.
overproduced.
They're not grown legally where they're taxed.
Well, no,
So they're going to destroy them,
no,
just like they'll destroy cigarettes that
well, people
are smuggled.
people would rather grow all the stuff in these states because, but there are states that still isn't legal like that, so people aren't growing them privately, in
Like
private
New York.
companies, like New York, which is about ready, from what I understand, to pass a law saying smoke them if you got them, you know.
They need to get rid of the treaty about the illegality of marijuana, so then they can actually do trade between countries too. Because a lot of the crime coming from Mexico is when we basically cut them off of corn, and our farm industries with NAFTA went in to flood their corn markets, and then they started going to drugs, and then that's what ended up happening there. If you could actually legalize the drug market down there and just become a regular legal commodity that's traded with the United States.
Well, most of the drugs that come across the border is pot. It is not the heroin or anything else. It's pot. Yeah, the best way to stop that trade is to legalize it and let them send it over and put tariffs on it and everything else. Make it legal. I don't know why we keep fighting this legalization of marijuana. I mean, for years it's been stupid for so many years that we've done this. It's
I think the Mexican
it's a
government
harmless,
should actually just sit
innocuous.
down with the cartels and
It's a harmless, innocuous drug, right, Patrick?
It's the gateway to aspirin.
I don't give
You never smoked it, so you don't give a shit. But
I agree with Phil.
You ever been robbed by anybody high on marijuana?
I've never smoked marijuana. I've never smoked a cigarette. I've taken were the one given to me by a doctor for, surgery and that. I've never had an interest in any of
And
that.
see, that's why you have a negative outlook on drugs, Patrick, because you were given the legal ones.
I didn't have a negative outlook.
Legal ones are good.
If they want to legalize marijuana, go for it.
No, but you're not interested in drugs at all, right? Because when you were younger, you were given drugs and you didn't like them, right?
That's a very honest answer. That's exactly it. That's why I never got into.
But that's what I'm saying. You had pharmaceuticals. You didn't have the lightweight marijuana.
But it's legal in California, and I still don't have any desire. If somebody said to me, "You want to drink?" Yeah, okay. You want to smoke a joint? No,
Why not, Phil?
I don't smoke cigarettes.
No, but it's not like smoking cigarettes, Phil. It
smells terrible.
It smells wonderful, Phil.
You've been there and done
burnt
that,
oregano.
Right?
I love the smell of pot, but I hate it when I'm on the street and I smell a car going by and it smells like pot.
Yeah, but the smell of pot, you know what the smell of pot means to me? A certain kind of camaraderie between people. Because you pass a joint back and forth, you're discussing stuff, you're getting high, you're making a lame-ass theories about how you're going to solve the problems of the world. It's a waste of time.
Come to Detroit when somebody cuts you off and you smell pot. You kind of get a different outlook on it when somebody's driving. At home, I like it. I love the smell of it at home. If somebody were to come over, but if somebody's driving down the road and you can smell it, and
so I assume it is smoked in your home from time to time.
From time to time, it might be.
In the garage.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
The reason Jeff is so quiet every night is he's so high on the pot that yes, Kevin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to see if I switched to an earphone. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Well, we're slow. We got about a minute and 20 seconds left before
he switched
to
the pot and wanted to make sure you could still hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah. So we live in strange times, folks, and they only seem to get stranger. I'm just not that happy with America right now, and I think we've lost our way. We've lost our moral compass. And I think that's the problem we have right now in the United States.
I think we finally found our moral compass in Trump.
Hey, Alex, just think of it. We're getting a great history lesson right now. We're going to see the fall of Rome.
You may be right. You may be right, because I don't see any way around this. It's only going to get worse and worse. And I don't care if Trump gets thrown out and somebody else gets elected. I think America will elect the wrong person. Okay, I think that's in our DNA now, unfortunately.
Did you hear Biden's youngest son got thrown out of the Navy for coming up positive on a cocaine test?
Why do you bring that up 1 minute before we have to go to theme?
Well, you'll have it for tomorrow.
Yeah. You figure you do it now so you can get away with it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you can tell us about it.
Hey, thank you very much, Charlie. Appreciate it. That's Charlie Wallace right there. Thanks to Jason. Doesn't wear a hockey mask. Just wears a smile. Tony Magno, thank you for being with us tonight, Anthony. Jeff, always nice to have you here. Brian, too bad we couldn't see you tonight, but maybe if you call us tomorrow night early, we'll be able to see you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Alex.
Phil, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. In spite of the fact that you're full of shit. Josh Wheeler, thanks for all the information on everything historical. Kevin Stopper, it's fun to have you there charging yourself while you're on the show. There it is. And, of course, Patrick Blazik. Thank you so much, Patrick. I really appreciate it. And if the rest of you, all of you, would wave at the audience and say goodbye, I will wave back at you. And I will say goodbye to you and say goodnight to our citizen panel. Boy, we had a full house here tonight. That's nice. That's like the old days. Yeah, we love the citizens panel to be a full house. That's 10 with me. Okay. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Jack Bishop is next with The Intersection tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern Time. It'll be Damian Chaplin with The Exchange, and then I'll be back again tomorrow night, hopefully with Girlfriend at 10 Eastern Daylight Time. Same time, same station in life. And by the way, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody.